Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. I'm Satya Rhodes Conway, the mayor of Madison. With me are Police Chief John Patterson, Public Works Director Charlie Romines, Director of Planning, Community, and Economic Development Matt Wachter, our Community Development Director Jim O'Keefe, Planning Director Megan Tuttle, and the Director of Traffic Engineering Yang Tao. They will be available for questions after I finish, and I think you're all aware of the procedure, but Dylan will be handling the questions and then we'll answer to the best of our ability. I want to start by again acknowledging that our community is in pain and is divided. Last night, the council meeting started at 6:30 and went till about 2:30 in the morning. And the council heard from many in our community who are sad and angry and traumatized and have lost faith in government. I want to thank everyone who came to speak, and please know that you were heard. And I really want to thank my council colleagues for listening for so many hours. We have also heard from many people that in the Marquette neighborhood who are angry that their neighborhood has had to bear the burden of an illegal encampment which impacted their health and their livelihoods. They too were losing faith in government. And it may surprise you, but we have heard from many Madisonians who think that we have been insufficiently supportive of the Madison Police Department. I say all this to remind us that many things can be true at once, and to emphasize that true change in our community takes time and the interaction of many people across these differences. We need to listen to each other. We don't all agree, but we need to work together to find a path forward. I also think it's important for us to start with some facts. The City of Madison is fully cooperating with the Department of Justice investigation into the police-involved shooting and will fully cooperate with any investigation by the Office of the Independent Police Monitor. But we cannot ignore or override state law. State law dictates how investigations of officer-involved shootings take place, how criminal charges can be filed, and the process for how local police officers can be hired and fired. Many in this community are angry and grief-stricken over Corey Ruiz's life being cut short by the police. Those feelings are completely legitimate, and I feel them too. But as mayor of Madison, I will not condone or accept that the solution is to further divide our community by causing harm to your neighbors and local businesses, harassing bystanders, or setting fires in city streets. None of that will change state law, and none of that can bring Corey back. Yesterday, after 2 weeks of searching for a peaceful resolution to the occupation of Williamson and Baldwin Streets, the City of Madison provided emergency assistance to dozens of unsheltered community members and attempted to clean up the intersection without law enforcement intervention. Most people left voluntarily, many to take advantage of hotel rooms that the city is providing to those who are unsheltered. We will continue to connect those folks to services that are available as we do year-round. However, a small handful of people began to throw rocks, start fires, and so law enforcement had no other choice but to intervene. This was done with a minimum amount of force and no use of large-scale crowd control measures, contrary to what some folks are reporting online. A small number of arrests were made. The decision to invoke this option was not made lightly and was only made after almost 2 weeks of trying to resolve the situation peacefully and voluntarily with the people occupying the site. I just want to emphasize again that we really tried to lead with other agencies and not law enforcement. And the number of agencies involved, which are represented by some of the folks here today, was incredible. And many of our city staff did an excellent job of de-escalating the situation. Throughout the day, yesterday, the city made ongoing attempts to allow for peaceful protests while maintaining traffic safety and keeping the Willie Baldwin intersection open. Non-law enforcement employees were involved again to help de-escalate tense moments, and the police department also made a small number of arrests throughout the day. Traffic was briefly closed by protests during the night at that intersection and on East Washington. One of the things that we've been saying repeatedly, and I want to emphasize again, is that the city is committed to facilitating a memorial near the Willie Baldwin intersection in ways that also allow traffic to flow. We are ready to coordinate with Corey's family and community leaders on the best way to do that. We have already identified areas in the parking lane that could be used for some type of memorial. I also want to just emphasize again that we, as we do every day, day in, day out, all year long, are providing services to people who are experiencing homelessness in our community. We offered many hotel vouchers to folks that had been experiencing homelessness and in the encampment, and yesterday we did provide buses to take them to hotels. They were also given bus passes if they wanted to go somewhere else. People were offered time to gather their things, and any additional materials like tents or other belongings were cataloged and were available for pickup at Demetrol Park. After noon today, if there is any material left, belongings that people need to pick up, they can contact the Parks Division and retrieve belongings through the normal Parks Division process. For any in our community that want to continue offering services and support to the unhoused community, there are so many possibilities to do that. There are many shelters and organizations that would love to have volunteers or donations to help people experiencing homelessness. I want to end by just saying again how deeply I feel the pain that our community is experiencing. We have heard in my office from so many people expressing pain for so many different reasons. We hear you. I acknowledge that pain. And I just asked that we continue to work together in a peaceful way. There is so much work to do to support each other in this community and to make a more just Madison and a more just society. I still believe that we will do better working together than causing more harm and destruction. I very much hope that our community can come together, start listening to each other across difference, acknowledge some of the deep structural issues in our society, and focus on how we move forward. Thank you again for being here, and I'll turn it over to Dylan for questions.
Okay, let's start with Nicole from WMTV.
Right here. Mayor, it's been 2 weeks now since this incident happened. This is the first time you are making yourself available to the public for questions. Why is it taking you so long to address us?
Yeah, thanks for the question. Honestly, for most of those 2 weeks, I've been on the phone or in meetings 12 hours a day, trying to coordinate with staff, touching base with members of the community, talking to the council, and just trying to continue to manage the situation as best as possible. We were putting out daily statements, and it really felt like my time was needed to manage the response. And happy to be here and answering questions today. I'm sure we'll have other opportunities in the future, but crisis response took precedence.
Do you now have an updated plan for what's next? I mean, is the National Guard going to be brought in? What is going to happen with getting folks out of this intersection?
Well, the last time I checked in, we were maintaining the intersection and traffic was flowing. I think that we will continue to monitor the situation and access resources as we need them. I will say at this point, I think we are managing. But I think actually what's more important is that we think about how to move forward and to start to work on some of the things that the community is asking for. So for example, working on a memorial, working on change at the council level, potentially at the state level. I know that there's work that the police chief has already identified that needs to happen. It's very hard to do any of that work when we're in immediate crisis response. So again, I would ask our community to let's keep the streets open, and let's certainly we invite people to exercise their First Amendment rights, but we need to be able to shift to that longer term work right now.
Okay, Aaron from the Cap Times.
Hi, yes, I wanted to ask, you said that the park after noon today, that people would have to go pick up their items elsewhere. There are a few tents that are still there this morning. There are still people there. What is the city's plans for that space?
For
After noon today?
Demetrol?
Yes.
Jim, do you want to speak to how people can access their things?
If the question is about accessing belongings that aren't retrieved by noon today, is that
What's
the?
going to happen to the people at the park after noon today? If there's people still there in tents, does the city know at this time what they're going to do after noon today for people that are still in tents at that park?
I think I'm not aware that there are folks who are camping at Demetrol.
We saw a few tents still this morning.
So there's still things that, like materials that were brought from the intersection that we've tried to make available to the people who own them. City has a process for unclaimed property, and we have to retain it for 45 days, and that again goes through the Parks Department. And I would say that if there are people camping in a park anywhere in the city, we do have an encampment protocol that we follow, which starts with outreach workers and helping to try and connect people to resources, whether that might be a hotel or a shelter or some other service that they could access, and then the protocol goes on from there. But that's our first step. If anybody is camping in public property, which is not legal in the city of Madison, we follow that protocol.
And then just my follow-up question was, who made the decision on, Monday morning to clear the encampment? Was this part of a, designated escalation plan after the city's many statements throughout the week, or was there a particular inciting incident or turning point that the decision was made to make this happen Monday morning?
I think our management of the situation all along has been a collaborative approach within our management team, it was a balance of resources available and the time to make the plans that we needed to make, and our continued monitoring of the situation on the ground. One factor was sort of the increasing number of folks experiencing homelessness who were continuing to come to the site, even after we had provided some of them with other options, including hotel vouchers. I did not see that lessening. And so again, while we provide homeless services throughout the year, and there's certainly not enough resources, but there are resources out there for folks, and we felt like that was not a tenable situation to allow to continue.
All right, thank you. WKOW, Ryan.
Yes, hi. Why did it take the city nearly 2 weeks to clear out the encampment? And do you have an estimate of how much everything the encampment cost the city?
That's a great question. I think initially it was very important for our community to have time to grieve and to express their First Amendment rights. It did transition quickly from what I would describe as a protest or a vigil to an encampment. But I still felt like it was important to not move too quickly. But again, as I said, I felt like when we tipped over into we are now just attracting more and more folks who are experiencing homelessness to come camp in the middle of the street. It was clear that the situation was increasingly dangerous for everybody and having a huge toll on the neighbors who are in the immediate vicinity. I felt like that was not something that could continue.
And then I have a question for Chief Patterson, if he can take questions. In regards to the altercation yesterday with the independent police monitor, Marie Class, does MPD plan to arrest that individual?
It's being reviewed right now by investigators, the entire situation, yes.
And then what is the procedure for an investigation involving an altercation between two city employees?
Well, I mean, it's a good question. We're reviewing it like we would any other member of the community, frankly. But the entire situation is going to be reviewed not only with the staff that were on scene, but investigators that are assisting with the progress of it. So,
Scott from the AP.
Chief, as long as you're up there, were you on board with the decision to wait 2 weeks to clear the encampment, and were you in support of the way that nighttime protests were handled last night? Was that your call, or was that a team approach?
Well, overall, yes, I was a part of the planning and the decision-making to proceed, absolutely. It obviously is not something that we can just flip a switch on in a moment's notice, so it takes some deliberate planning action. As far as last night goes, it was a collaborative effort. I can't say enough about the assistance that we got from other partners, State Patrol, UWPD, Sun Prairie, to name a few. It was critical assistance last night to make sure that we were able to get to today.
All right, let's, box 6, Stephanie.
Hi, we've heard from, you mentioned arrests. Is there potentially a total count of how many people were taken into custody and how many people were cited or released?
There are 22 physical arrests in totality. That includes, the initial efforts in the morning through late or early this morning, I guess. And then 10 individuals were cited. There was one juvenile arrested. That was the instance where the weapon was recovered that I think was shared online by staff. So 22 physical and 10 citations.
And the firearm was, I'm sorry, a juvenile had the firearm?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. And
Rob,
then,
really quick.
I'm sorry, just a follow-up question. Prior to this, in the past 2 weeks, were there any arrests, any police response to that area?
There was at least one response that I was aware of for the report of a battery. That one I think has been reported here locally on. I'm not aware of others offhand. So.
Rob from Madison 365.
For Chief Now, 2 weeks ago, you said, and I'll quote you, we're not going to allow open investigation with an excuse not to share. My understanding is that what you had already told is that one of your class that you couldn't share because of an open investigation. So did we misspeaking at that press conference, or what did you mean?
I did not tell her that I could not share. What I said is that, at that moment, which was the night of the incident, I wasn't even aware of what records we had at that time. And so, this is a very tough needle to thread. I'm being very honest with you. This is an open criminal investigation first before we can transition to other investigations. And so this has not been a flat-out denial. It's been a timing issue. It has to first go through DOJ and DCI, and then we can transition to both the IM's investigation and then, frankly, the one that I'm going to have to be responsible for internally.
And Paul, you also talked a lot about community trust and the damage that might. How are you feeling now, 2 weeks later, in terms of trust the community, the encampment, or anything else that's happening?
It's fragile, Rob. I saw things last night that I haven't seen in years. I feel like our trust is very fragile right now. We have a tremendous amount of work to do. I said this last year when I applied for this job. I think this is an incredible police department. I think it's filled with incredible people. But we're not perfect. We have work we need to do. I've identified some areas that I think we're going to make immediate progress on, hopefully, and immediate steps to do some restructuring to help us get there. But that takes time, and to the mayor's point, it's near impossible to do it when you're in the middle of a crisis. So, yeah, thank you.
Maggie from WISC.
Thank you. My question is for the mayor. If people keep returning to the site in an attempt to make an encampment and block off streets, at what point do you decide to change the city's response or strategy?
It's a good question. I think as we have done for the last 2 weeks, we're going to continue to assess the situation every day. I will be clear, though, that it is not acceptable for streets to be closed on a permanent basis. We need to be able to keep traffic flowing and allow people to access their homes and businesses so that they do not become in a situation where they're losing income and have to lose their homes. So what it will take to accomplish that, I think, is going to be a day-by-day thing. But again, I think that what's important is that we continue to make progress on the things that we need to do. So we need to continue. I just want to say again, because I think people don't believe this, we are absolutely committed to allowing space for some sort of memorial. It just can't be in the middle of the traffic lanes. So that is a thing that we're going to have to work on going forward, right? We're going to need to continue to work on the policy response going forward. I think the council, after last night's council meeting, is going to have some important conversations. So that is the work that I hope that our community can turn to now, while allowing traffic to keep flowing through that intersection, so that we can focus on the next steps.
Thank you. My follow-up is, you mentioned wanting to leave a space for the vigil to exist. Has the city been in contact with the family court groups?
So we have heard through an intermediary. I think you all saw the statement from the family about what their desires are. I honestly haven't had a chance to really dig into that and look through what is in there that we could accomplish with them. I will just reiterate that we are happy to work with them either directly or through intermediaries to discuss what's possible at that site. I think I want to center their desires and needs first, but I also understand that there's a broader community desire here, and that is going to have to be part of the conversation, what the community is interested in. So far, I'm hearing many conflicting things, and we're going to have to reconcile that through some community conversations. Thank you.
Chris Rickard from the State Journal.
For Chief Madison. During the city council meeting last night, an alder raised the possibility of NPD asking the Division of Criminal Investigation to release their records on who is going to the OIM now, as opposed to waiting until the time. Is that something NPD would do?
I've had discussions literally every single day, multiple times a day, with DCI about what updates can be shared. I've tried to provide an update. I know there hasn't been anything substantive in the last few days, but I'm assured they continue to progress in their investigation. There have been discussions about potential intersections with the OIM, and so I feel it's really my job to allow the investigating agency to do their work and make some of these decisions on records as well. I don't want to be a chief that's going to try to influence decisions one way or the other and potentially impact what the outcome or the ultimate decision is. So that's the lane I'm trying to stay in, Chris.
So if I'm understanding correctly, you talked with DCI about have you encouraged them to release information about their investigation?
I have been, without expressly demanding, I have been trying to provide as much encouragement without, influencing their direction as possible. Yes.
Anya from WPR.
Yeah, hi. Actually, for both of you, can you just clarify exactly sort of what happened overnight, how long it transpired for, the exact number of arrests and citations that took place overnight, and then if you can share just sort of when you said you saw things that you looked in the mirrors, what you're referring to?
So I'll try to break it down, but if I miss something, please chime back in. I don't have a breakdown by hour of the arrests, but that's something we can try to provide to you for how many were on Tuesday and how many were early this morning, Wednesday morning. There was a group of individuals, between 30 to 40 at one time, that continued to want to, frankly, engage negatively with our staff, with our officers. Our police officers, frankly, for hours stood there and took profanity, insults, yelling, really challenging moments, I think, were experienced by them. I am very proud of how they handled the situation. I think they maintained professionalism, they maintained discretion, and frankly, they showed de-escalation when it was appropriate. At one point last night, they backed out of the intersection again. That was largely to try to de-escalate what felt like some really tense moments with the group that was still there. The rain came. Unfortunately, it was 20 minutes. It wasn't that much. When the rain stopped, the crowd had moved trash and garbage cans and blocked all of East Washington Avenue. Our officers moved up to try to clear the roadway. As you know, that's a major thoroughfare into the city. Things were thrown at the officers. It felt as though they were trying to, frankly, pick a fight. I think our officers did an exceptional job not, escalating at that moment. The crowd moved back to Williamson Street and Baldwin Street, and 3 significant fires were set. 3 large dumpsters were set on fire. I can't praise enough the support that we got last night from the State Patrol, from Sun Prairie. It was absolutely critical for a successful outcome. We were stretched thin on Tuesday with our officers that traditionally train and do just an exceptional job with crowd management and crowd control. They were largely staffed during the day, and so we had a lot of resources pulled from patrol, from other assignments that were a part of our last night's work as well. There were some great decisions made by those in the command post. We were able to move up without any use of crowd control measures. No gas was used, no projectiles were fired. They moved up. They were able to encourage the crowd to move past the fires, and the brave men and women of MFD came up and put the fires out. So it was an incredible team effort last night, as it was yesterday. I can't say enough about the partners standing behind me. A lot of city employees were involved, and they were asked to do a lot of things that they've never been asked to do. So hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, thank you. So claims that there was tear gas used, you were definitely...
We never used tear gas. That is not true. There was one instance that I'm aware of where one individual officer utilized pepper spray. It was an individual decision at that moment. I don't know a lot of details about it, but we did not use any tear gas. That's not true.
All right, Alex from Spectrum News.
So there were several state troopers out there at the intersection this morning. I don't know if you can answer this, Mayor, or you, Chief Madison. How long should the neighborhood expect there to be a police presence at that intersection?
We're going to continue to staff for the foreseeable future. I'm hopeful that we're not visible when we don't need to be visible. We're trying very hard to continue to work with our partners, like I said, standing behind me, city streets employees, parks employees, to have them be at the forefront whenever possible. We recognize that for some people in the area, we are what's causing agitation, our presence, and so we don't want to do that. I can't give enough praise to those that are there gathering, that are keeping things peaceful and calm. It does feel like a small group that are, at least last night we're not. I'm hopeful that we've moved past that. So.
And there's been a lot of criticism.
I just wanted to add, I want to recognize that there's a number of other city staff from our Employee Assistance Program, from our Planning Community Economic Development, from Violence Prevention Unit, Building Inspection, that our park rangers that did incredible work yesterday to de-escalate both the general situation and individually. One of the things that has been a priority for me, the chief said that often the presence of police officers is part of the escalation, and so we have tried very hard to limit police response to what's necessary and to use other city staff. It is stretching their capacity as well. It's definitely other duties as assigned, but I want to really appreciate the work that they have done, and I'm hopeful that we're going to be able to continue to use those kind of folks who can de-escalate situations as much as possible going forward.
And then my follow-up is, there's just been a lot of criticism about how the city has handled this entire situation over the last couple of weeks. Why should the public still have faith in city leadership moving forward?
Well, there has been a lot of criticism. Everybody has an opinion on what we should do. I think that few folks recognize the constraints that we operate under. And as I started with this morning, there are people who wish that we had come in on day one and stopped all of the protests and never let an encampment happen. And then there are people who wish that we would let that encampment go on for months and months and months. So yes, there's a lot of people who don't think that we've done the right thing, but they all think that we've done the wrong thing for different reasons. This is part of the business of being in government. You cannot please everyone. And so we collectively have to do our best to, yes, listen to our community, but also make the best decisions we can in the moment with the information that we have, prioritizing following the law, public safety, and then trying to do the best we can to take care of our community.
Zoe from the Wisconsin State Journal.
For the hotel vouchers, I was wondering if you have an updated number on how many vouchers were offered, how many were accepted, how long they're valid for?
Through the course of the last approximately a week, we have placed 70 individuals, most of them singles. There are a handful of families into local hotels. 40 of those occurred either the day of yesterday's operation or the evening before. But we have been responding for quite some time to the mayor's desire to do what we can to relocate people who are willing to leave that site into better and safer accommodations. So the total number is 70. They've been offered hotel stays for up to a week. And most of them that were offered, perhaps not initially, but by the end of the day yesterday, anybody that was on site that was looking for alternative accommodations were able to get them.
And once their stay is up, are there any plans to offer kind of continued support as they transition out of the hotel?
Well, so we are, I mean, there is an element of the unhoused population that is unsheltered at any given time. We have systems in place. We have local partners that continue to work with them. That work is ongoing. Those partners have been part of the work that we have done in the Willie Street area. So we will continue to do what we have done in the past, and that is to do everything possible to connect people with available resources. And those available resources can range from anything from shelter accommodations, and we've made a great investment in strengthening shelter systems in this city. We're less than a month away from opening a state-of-the-art shelter for unhoused men. We're investing $12 million a year to expand the supply of affordable housing. So there isn't a single answer. There isn't a simple answer, but this is all part of the ongoing work that the city's involved in.
This is Community Development Director Jim O'Keefe. All right, how about Kendall from WISN?
Like you said, for nearly 2 weeks, we had people camping in the streets. Some of the businesses remained closed for that entire time. Does the city regret not intervening even a little bit sooner?
Well, I think as you've heard already today, we really wanted to work to come to a peaceful and voluntary conclusion. And it's only really after repeated efforts to help facilitate that we made the decision to go in. And I think nobody really wanted to escalate the situation or have a big confrontation, but it definitely was a factor in the decision and what we were hearing from both businesses, but perhaps even more importantly, the residents in the area about the impact on them and how unsafe the situation was for a number of different reasons. I will say that our Economic Development Division has been reaching out both directly to individual businesses and to the Neighborhood Business Association. And I'm aware that at last night's council meeting, Alder Davey Mayer did introduce a proposal to create a fund to support the businesses in that area. Now, obviously, it's up to the council if they want to do that or not, but we have been trying to both listen to and work with the businesses. I should also mention that the city did not establish this, but the Neighborhood Business Association did establish a GoFundMe to support the businesses in that area.
When you're trying to balance empathy but enforcement, where does the city draw that line?
That is a question that we ask ourselves every day, the balance between empathy and enforcement, and there is no one answer. Again, in any given situation, we have to assess the situation, get as much information as we can, and make the best decision we can.
Okay, Elliot from WISC.
Yes, after the incident between police and the independent monitor yesterday, she said she would burn the city down. Do you believe there can be an independent investigation?
I think it's disturbing anytime a city employee is calling for violence. I think that's really disturbing. But as the council has made clear time and time again, they want that office to be independent of my office, and it is. So I think I would ask council leadership what they think the path forward is there. I think the city has ordinances that establish that office, and we'll respect them.
That office has a $400,000 budget. Are you worried that incidents like this could hurt public trust in that?
I am worried, as the chief said, about public trust in many different ways. I think that there's a number of folks that have lost trust because they are afraid of police violence. There's a number of folks who have lost trust because they think that we did not respond quickly enough to the situation. There's other folks that have lost trust because they think we didn't support the police enough. I think there are folks that don't have trust in the Office of the Independent Monitor or the Police Civilian Oversight Board. And there are other people who told us last night that they're the only entities that they trust. So I don't think our community feels one thing. I think they feel many things, and that's part of our work going forward, is to have those hard conversations and listen to people that we might disagree with and try and come to a compromise about where our city goes next.
Jesse from the Journal-Sentinel.
Thanks. I'm wondering to what extent, if any, seeing state level candidates or national officials weighing in on what's going on here has inflamed the situation.
I hesitate to say this out loud, but honestly, I haven't been paying a whole lot of attention to what other levels of government are saying. I'm not sure I can really respond to that. Yeah, I don't know.
As a follow-up, I guess thinking back to the way that the city handled things when there were widespread protests back in 2020, what can you point to that's been put in place or changed in the way that you handle things that you think has set you up to be in a better position now that there are?
Thank you. That's a great question. I think we learned a lot of really hard lessons in 2020, and we have tried to implement what we learned. I think the number one thing that I would point to is that I learned is that while I think we have a great way of protecting First Amendment rights in the city of Madison, when the thing that people want to express their opinions about is the police, that it is less effective to have the police involved in managing that. And so in the early days when folks were marching and having vigils, and we tried to really manage those situations and keep everybody safe using a non-law enforcement presence. That was really important to me, and I'm thankful that the chief agreed and that other agencies were willing to step up and fill in that way. I think you've heard us say that again and again, that we did not want to lead with law enforcement, and we wanted to do our best to de-escalate each and every situation. That is probably the biggest lesson that I took from 2020, and I think it is stretching city government to figure out how to do that even better. I haven't really had time to process lessons from the past 2 weeks yet, but I do think that we are going to have some conversations about what kind of training a broader array of city staff need in de-escalation techniques, and make some plans about if we do not want to use a law enforcement response, what our other options are.
Meredith from CBS 58.
Yeah, hi. I am hoping that you can address some of the comments that the independent police monitor said. She's made claims that you guys have tried to get rid of her office. She said after that video where she said she wanted to burn the city down, she said that they wanted to do this to me. And she's also simultaneously asking for more money to go to her office. So I'm hoping you and the chief can respond to, have you wanted her office to disappear, and have you been out to get her, for a lack of better words?
Absolutely not. I mean, I believe in civilian oversight of the police. That's something that in 2020 we started to work on in my office. The council made it clear that they wanted to control that process, and they did. I think we've been clear that when it is legal under state law, we'll share whatever information is requested for that independent investigation. It has been, I think it's fair to say, a rocky road for that office. The city is under continuous budget pressures, and there have been budgets where I've asked every office to offer up savings or cuts. True of that office, but true of many other departments as well. I don't think that we have perfected civilian oversight in the city of Madison yet. I think that's an ongoing conversation. The council had heard from many, many people last night what their opinions are on that, and I know that they're going to have continued conversations going forward. But I think one thing that has been clear to me since 2020 is that the council feels like it is their role, not mine, to figure this out.
Well, and as a follow-up, her office, as well as other several nonprofits, are asking for 1 to potentially 5% of the police budget. They weren't really clear on how much they wanted exactly. I'm wondering if the chief can weigh in on what that would mean for his office, as well as what that would mean for public safety, if that request was met.
Well, I think when we're talking about the city budget, the most important thing to understand is that because of the incredibly strict limits placed by the state legislature, this year for the 2027 operating budget, our cost to continue, our cost to do what we are doing today is $7.2 million over the expenditure restraint limit. So just to have a budget where we do not lose further state aid, we would have to cut $7.2 million from the city budget. So that is the context for any conversation about budgets going forward. The council and I are going to have to make some really hard decisions, and hopefully we can find solutions that don't harm any city services. But I'm not prepared to say that we can increase funding to any agency until we solve that problem. And I think that should be the focus of any conversations about the 2027 budget, is how we are going to comply with state law and deal with the incredibly strict limits that the state legislature has placed on us.
So you would support giving the independent monitor's office 1 to 5% of the police budget?
At this point in time, I'm not able to say that I would support any increases in any agency until we can solve that problem. And we have just received the agency requests and proposals for cuts. I'm sure it won't surprise you that I haven't had a chance to look at them yet, but that's the next step in the process, is for my office to look at what the agencies are either proposing to cut or asking for, and assess all of that and try and put together an executive budget that meets state law, doesn't lose us state revenue, and provides the services that this community expects.
Are you still going to try?
All right, we got 3 there, so it's we got time for one more, and I think we're going to wrap it up after that. We have our public works director, our traffic engineer, planning, community development, and I think if you have some specific follow-ups that you will answer one-on-one. But just finally, we have one question and a follow-up from the name and face you could trust, the PBS Merv Seymour.
That's well, everybody's asked most of my questions. I guess I'm wondering, what kind of things have you guys picked up or learned? Other places that have gone through these kind of uproars, or is there anything in particular that you may have picked up that helped you get through this, or is helping you get through this?
That's an excellent question. I will say that I am privileged to be part of a community of mayors around the country, and many of them have reached out to me over the past 2 weeks and offered their advice and support, and been a sounding board for me. So yes, there's many things that folks have offered from their experiences. I did specifically, I've talked to the former mayors of Louisville and Minneapolis. The current mayor of Minneapolis has been in touch, and they have offered a whole list of their experiences mostly and what they learned, in hopes that I could then learn from it as well. I think you've seen a lot of that in how we've moved, in particular trying to communicate as best as possible and to support the fact that people do need to grieve and protest, but also that we can't allow continuing negative impacts on the neighborhood. That balance and being able to talk through that balance with other mayors has been really helpful.
Mayor, were there protesters at your house last night?
I'm not aware of any protesters that were at my house last night.
Okay. Do you have a response to criticism from people and calls for your resignation?
No.
All right, thank you everyone, really appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Like I said, we have a few folks gone. If you want to